This is Jeremy Wentworth-Stanley. I'm the fellow who has a hyphen in my name. The hyphen is silent, but I am anything but that. Sarah, it's a beautiful morning up here in the hills of Georgian Bay, or looking over Georgian Bay, and I hope everybody is enjoying warm weather and so on. It's an August day. No, it's not August yet, is it? It's July.
Almost.
Yeah.
It feels like we're almost there.
Yeah. And we will be there shortly. And when we are there, I shall be fishing. That's my expedition in the first week of August.
Very nice.
In the meantime, we are going to be talking, I better introduce ourselves properly. There's Jeremy Wentworth-Stanley. I am the voice of Respectonomics and sharing with my co-host, Sarah Benton. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning, Jeremy. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. And what the subject today is a one-liner, one word. It's redemption.
Dun, dun, dun.
Da, da, da. And it's a very important word because I'll give you a definition of redemption.
Okay.
I have to go back a line with you, first of all, because redemption is that whole business of I have been redeemed or you have been redeemed. It's a very straightforward, policy, philosophy, whatever you'd call it.
Concept, yes.
Yeah, you want to be redeemed. And here is the truth of the matter, the truth. Every human being, start with Jeremy, but then cascade around the world. Every human being suffers from the 3 Fs. And it always sounds rude. And that's a very unfortunate point to even have to say that, because this is nothing to do with rudery or expletives or anything. The 3 Fs are fallen, failing, and fallibility. Every human being has fallen, every human being has failed, and every human being is fallible. And if you've got anybody you know who doesn't fit that mold, send him along, because I will invest $1 trillion with that individual.
I think that would be called a unicorn.
Okay, you go play unicorns. But really, there is no such person that is not otherwise failed, fallible, or fallen. And yet, here's this strange thing. All of us, there's 8 billion of us around the world, we are all living. I agree, some living under very difficult conditions. I'm not making it a sort of panacea or anything. But what I'm pointing out is the very fact that we're alive and the very fact that we have in our hip pocket failing, fallen, and fallible. Everybody has 3 Fs in their hip pocket or in their wallet. Wherever you want to look in your being, you got them. So you have these 3 Fs, and yet we're still living. So if in actual fact I am still living, by definition it means I have been redeemed from those things where I've messed up, either by failing or falling or being fallible. So I am actually a redeemed individual right off the bat, just by the very fact that I'm alive and living. That is proof perfect. Sounds a little Socratic, but being alive means you're redeemed. It's a straightforward thing. And then you might say, well, what is this business about being redeemed? Why do we need to feel redeemed? And there's a number of aspects to this. Corporately, because it's very easy for this conversation to sort of go off into a rabbit hole, and the corporate executive says, what's that got to do with me? Let me tell you what it's got to do with the corporation. Every corporation talks about things that are redeemable. They talk about, you've got a coupon, for example, that you got in the mail for Canadian Tire or Burger King or something. And it is redeemable, often with no cash value, but it is redeemable for a particular object. Corporations are always talking about redeemable coupons and redeemable activity. Then, in the corporate financial structure, you hear words like, it is redeemable at the shareholder's option. And what I mean by that is, without going into the nitty-gritties of, redeemable and retractable, all I'm pointing to is, if corporations can use the word redeemable, and if they can apply it to the way in which they do business, then it is an absolute segue to say that the redemption and the redeemability of the human being is vital to the health of the corporation. Every corporation makes mistakes,
Mhm.
period. They put in the wrong nuts and bolts. They don't tighten up something properly. Go and talk to Boeing. They'll tell you where they have made their series of mistakes. But you can talk to, I can remember from the old days, Corvairs, which was a car made by, I think, American Motors,
Mm.
and had some of the worst accident records and so on. The point I'm getting to is everybody understands the need to be redeemed. It's
Yeah.
essential. So to be redeemed, the corporation uses the word. The
Mhm.
corporation needs, therefore, to apply that throughout the entire process of running the business. And why this is important is as follows. All of us have experienced where we have messed up. That's just a truth in life. And may have messed up in our partnerships. We may have messed up in the business. We may have messed up in the community. There's numerous polygon sides to how we mess up. And the truth of the matter is, with the mess ups, there is one truth that is more important than any other. Yes, we should experience remorse. Everybody will say, very understandably, Jeepers, I wish I hadn't done that.
Mm.
But having said that, it might be, oh gosh, I wish I hadn't gone out this morning because you were going to call me. That kind of thing. It's not
Right.
necessarily intense, but there's a
Right.
degree of remorse of what otherwise could have been the case. So I
Right.
think it's perfectly reasonable, analytically, rationally, to look at remorse. What is not allowed is shame and guilt,
Mm.
because shame and guilt are open sores. They wound, they bleed, they've got no band-aid on them, and they're toxic. You
And
find
there's
shame or guilt in anybody's life, and it's like a fountain of toxin. It just spreads right the way through the mind and the body. And
and
you
that can be self-imposed, where
absolutely,
we're framing ourselves with the shame and guilt, or it can
absolutely,
also come at outside
yeah,
sources, right?
yeah. So a starting gate is absolutely, corporately and personally, never to put somebody else on a guilt trip,
Mhm.
because the damage that is being done is way beyond the "ya shoulda." It goes into what that damage is of that guilt that person then inherits or absorbs. So
Right.
actually, that old byline of if you've got something nice to say it, and if you don't, shut up. That's actually true.
Well, and it doesn't mean that you can't address
Ah,
something. If there was a problem or
yeah,
a gap
yeah,
in a process or a situation or something,
yeah,
again, it's all in how that is identified,
yeah,
how it's clarified with the
right,
individual,
yeah,
how it's talked about, and what is the learning going forward. It's about the
right,
process that's
right.
engaged in that.
Yeah. One of the techniques we were taught as salespeople was to discomfort somebody. That didn't mean you were being rude to them or challenging them or anything like that. But the
Mm.
classic example is when the individual said, I'm so sick and tired of all the money markets and all this stuff. I'm going to take my money and put it up the chimney.
Right,
My response to that is, have you thought about what would happen if Mrs. Springham lit the fire that morning?
right,
Your entire wealth would go up in smoke. So you have a right there to discomfort somebody. And as you rightly point out, how you express that. I didn't say, you idiot, if you do that. I didn't say
right,
that. I said, have you considered? So
right.
this whole business of redemption is being able to install in other people a sense of value, a sense of worth, a sense of dignity. One of the points we make over and again. But the other part to redemption is this. When we deal with shame, disgrace, and loss of personal respect and so on, you got to have an avenue to deal with it. And part of it is actually just this very fact that we're talking about. It is very healthy. We've all got these demons that need to be, what should we say, contained, and
Mhm.
we need to deal with them. And I've found out something. The body isn't brilliant at dealing with this. It's just like the hardware. It's a sort of framework. The mind is a pain in the neck because the mind will flirt between one subject and another at the speed of light, literally.
Right.
So when you've got a problem, my goodness, is it easy to let that problem slide away because you can think about something else. So The mind isn't always the most brilliant place to take it. But if you look at your soul is that reservoir that, if in fact it's filled with toxins, will express the toxins in all phases of your life and other people's. So, presumably, the thing to do is to clean out the reservoir, to clean out the soul, to clean out the
Right.
self spirit, to clean out the character. And everybody needs to make their personal decision how they do that. One of the principles behind respectonomics is to honor other people's freedom of choice. So if you said to me, I'm going to clean my soul out by sitting on a park bench and gazing at the water for the next 2 hours, that's your mechanism, and I should encourage it.
Right.
I have different ways of handling it, but it is within the soul, and this is a crucial point. It is within the soul that one finds this ability to deal with the guilt and the shame and so on, that we can actually deal with it and get rid of it. If you find that your avenue of faith or your avenue of how you deal with these things isn't working, then to me, the obvious, you have to reset the compass and find out what in fact will do that, give you that peaceful resolution within your soul. In other words, if what you're doing isn't working, take a look at doing it another way. We don't
Right.
have to be house proud. We can be just literally, hey, I'm going to try another way to deal with it. I want to make two last comments on this business, and that is, when we get rid of this, let's just call it shame, guilt, when we get rid of it, it's almost like you set the captive free. Most of us are in prisons, mentally or spiritually. We're in these prisons where we feel, we keep looking and thinking of the things we've done wrong. If we can deal with these things, it doesn't excuse the accountability. It doesn't excuse the outcomes. I'm not talking of that language. The language I'm talking about is that self-deprecation that is totally contrary to the human principle. The
Right.
human principle is that you and I are made for great potential, great skills, great compassion, love, and all those things. Great kindness. We can do all of that, but you can't do it when your soul is in a contaminated state. So it needs to be set free. And when you're set free, wow, what a wonderful feeling. And the last thing is this, Sarah, corporately again. You can hear the corporate executive, can't you? The director, the chairman, the chairperson saying something like, well, that's up to you to deal with. Yes, it is a personal decision. But the more we encourage people, the concept of self-redemption and redeeming other people and not holding people to a standard that is unreasonable or historical, that's what you did 3 years ago, forget it. What does matter is when we are set free, we become what's called boundless boundaries.
Mm.
We have no limit to our capacity. But when you have guilt and shame stuck in the middle, it's like a harpoon. It pulls you back. So get rid of the harpoon and let the corporation fully understand that when they engage in this spirit or this attitude of redemption, what in fact they create is the boundless boundary. Can you imagine a business that has no boundaries? A business
Right.
that says, hey, look at all the different things we can do, how it can repurpose what it is doing already. It's exciting, it's powerful, and it's the bedrock of prosperity.
Amazing, Jeremy.
I rest my case.
Thank you for your insights.
Hey, thank you, Sarah.